provided a Ford Anglia in a van form dating from 1966. Many of you are 1960 with its race wheel windscreen. They also produced a van version, 5 and 7 motorway van version, which were exceedingly popular and used by many utilities as well as even private users. Nice little vehicle, Ford car comfort really for the van driver. The Scamell vehicle was built by Reliance, called the Reliant Hands. It was intended as a light delivery vehicle, particularly for servicing purposes. If you can see this vehicle when it comes up there, you'll see the owner. There we are, but a very fine line-up, a variety of vehicles. The preservation of the commercial vehicles. not only on the rides but also on the sideshow. The days before there were permanent cinemas set up, and steam traction engines with their dynamos were essential to operating your cinema, your travelling cinema. The most elaborate displays were erected often with mechanical organs used for the line. One of the very last heavy haulage showman's engines to be built in 34, and they were the very last of the line. Unfortunately, they had a relatively short life because by the Second World War, the steam on the fairgrounds was becoming obsolete, and Lion and several of the others were utilised mainly for haulage work in their later part of their working lives.
Quantities that make the most. These two are French mares. I bought them in from France. Crèche is the near side, which is the left-hand side if you look at it from the driver, is a 10-year-old mare. We bought her as a foal, so we've had her a long time. Xena, which is the offside mare, is 8 years old, and we've had her 2 years now. These horses, but all grey horses are born black. So when they were foals, they were black, and then they vary. They do, but the thing I was looking for was to get that.
The GT car, as the XJS was earlier. But this is Jaguar's V8, very economical, very powerful car, readily available today, as they stopped making it some years ago. It's affordable Jaguar motoring, economical. And now we move on to Jaguar's latest example of a sports car. This, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, is an F-type Jaguar from the Portsmouth region.
Interesting applications. Colours that we know today. Excellent display. Nicely explained as well. This is a multitude of models. It's always difficult to fathom. But that was an excellent session in the main here. Well, shortly we go back to something more robust and old in some of the steam vehicles, where I hope we will have some of the steam engines in to show how winching is done using engines. We have another half-hour session of that, hold it in place. Otherwise the drum just standing still while the axle goes round. Now we lock the axle by the drive, the wheels have been disengaged. So when the engine motion work, as we call the works on the top there, is now turned over, rather than driving the wheels round, we'll drive the winch truck round. Control it, can't come off the drum when you're pulling. See on the side of the tender of the engine, there's two vertical rollers. And these bare leads control the movement of the winching rope. And if the winching is slightly out of line, as you can see, the engine has actually quite a remarkably long rope on its. Usually engines have at least 100-foot rope, sometimes up to 2, and it's totally out of gear because of the dead weight of the engine. Somewhere to reach about 3 tons being hauled back on that cable. The cable is really quite short, so the engine really is doing some work. Being careful with the engine, generally a bit muddy and mucky, rain and such. The job had to be done. Use the winch and the cable on the crushing machine position alongside the straw stack to get that in place. One thing that you could manhandle with 3 or 4 men. A machine of that nature is very heavy. Incidentally, if you want to see steam thrashing going on, there is a demonstration here at the Autumn Countryside show on the 11th and 12th of October.
Wimborne in Dorset. They had a fire in the church, and the hand manual that they had wasn't good. Steam, state of the art at the time, steam fire pump. It was supplied. Is capable of pumping 300 and boiler pressure works at 120 pounds steam pressure, and the water pressure pumping through a 3/4 inch nozzle is around about 40 pounds per square inch, depends on the nozzle and the length of hose. The fires are well going today. Yesterday we got there too quick and the fire was sort of hardly get going when they get. It's always a bit of a thing with a steam engine when you do something like this, because one day it's pull up along. So Chris is putting the suction into the water tank. The two boys are Nick and Will are running the hose out. And by now Chris should have the engine turning over. And if you watch, you see the water coming down the hose pipe. There it goes. And we've got water. Hooray! And as you can see, there's quite a bit of pressure. Yeah, you can say it's pumping 320 gallons a minute, which is, a lot of water, and there's a lot of pressure coming out of that hose. So the fire is, well and truly out. Quite a big lad, and he's struggling to hold on to that hose, the amount of water pressure there is. The engine's a double vertical expansion, which means that it's both cylinders are full pressure steam, which some of these traction engines are compound ones, they use at least twice. So it is a very efficient pump. You don't have to prime it or anything. As soon as you chuck the suction in the water, it goes. But it's already, I don't know if you can see the water tank, but it's always half done when the engine was bought as a sold for scrap in 1946, I think it was, by Lord Shaftesbury, and it was seen being towed to the scrapyard by Mr. Turner from Portsmouth. He was a bit of an eccentric. He collected all sorts of things, motor vehicles and motorbikes and all sorts of things, and he kept it not in preservation, but he just kept it. And in the 50s, my father-in-law, who had horses still, because he farmed and he never went out with horses when everybody else did, was asked to horse it back at St Giles. And after that, Tom was interested in steam as well as having horses, so Mr. Turner let him keep it. So he kept it at the farm and looked after it for years. He used to have do bits to it and just generally look after it, which was good, because one year Mr. Turner had he had a fire in his nursery, and a lot of the stuff he collected got burned. But this particular year, there we go, we put the fire out. I think it's worth a round of applause. A long time, and he used to come and see us when we used to take it to events, and he died and his daughter inherited it, and she wasn't really interested, and he got to know that if she wanted to sell it, she was going to put it in auction. So my wife and myself, we went and saw her, and we managed to buy it off her before it went to the auction. I think we paid a fair price for it at the time, but because we'd grown up with it, I've been going with it since I was about 10 years old. Chap who used to live next door to me used to drive it, the Tom, the father-in-law, and Rowena started driving it when she was about 16, so it was in the family, so we had to preserve it, so we bought it and been looking after it ever since. Everything on there is original. It's been painted a few times, but all the woodwork and the wheels and everything is original.
expects that every man will do his duty was hoisted. Hanging along the poop rail are leather fire buckets decorated with the royal cipher of King George III, the reigning British monarch in 1805.
Lighthouse. She's now a restaurant and bar over in the public. Just look at all the boats onto the right hand side. Just amazing. They're not real, they're all plastic. On the left here, this is all that remains of HMS Dolphin today. This is all the submarines used to fly up, all on the left here. Today, this is known as Fort Blockhouse. Now, this is still owned by the Ministry of Defence. We are running very busy, and we are licensed to carry 74 passengers. That's how much lifesaving equipment we've got. 74 people. We can't take any more than that, otherwise we break the law. Now then, if we load up to 74 today, we will be going back to the Portsmouth side. If you find yourselves being left behind, what you can do, you can either wait for the next border bus, you can either walk to the town centre of Gosport, one of the power blocks there, get one of those small ferries over, or it's quite a nice day, you could swim. All right. So here we are again, look, back on the same boat. Was that good, was it, the submarine museum? Yeah. Nearly as good as the boat ride. Oh, there you go, see. So did you all learn a lot about HMS Alliance then? Okay, we'll soon see. Did they tell you about the time that she ran aground? Ah, no, you see, I didn't think they'd tell you that. Well, it's true. She was coming back to Portsmouth once, back in the 70s, and the navigator on board made a bit of an error, and she went the wrong way and hit something called the Isle of Wight. It's true. What made it worse, it was high tide, and at low tide you could all see a submarine on the beach. So they try not to tell people that. Now, it is true, because just every so often we have members of the public on board who can remember it. He's older than what he looks. One day he's going to punch me. Did they explain about the dive tower there? That's the creamy coloured tower with the windows running up. That is the old escape tower there. That's the one that was filled up with water, one of the deepest swim pools in the country. And that's where the submarine crews had to practice escaping from a submarine. In a controlled environment, they'd have to swim from the bottom to the top without any breathing equipment. It would take between 8 and 12 seconds breathing out the whole way up. And if the safety divers had to come to your help, that would count as a fail. You had to do it on your own. You had to breathe out all the way up, otherwise your lungs would explode, and of course you'd be killed to death. It's very cheerful, isn't it? The green one we're just about to pass, this building here, that's where they used to test all the periscopes for the submarines when they were here. That's where they were serviced and tested, that green one there. On the left very shortly you'll see a ocean-going racing yacht just going back in, this Hugo Boss one. Now this one belongs to Alex Thompson. He was the youngest ever skipper to win an around the world yacht race. He now gets sponsored by Hugo Boss to race theirs. It's all made out of carbon fibre, so it's very light and there's not much of it under the water. It basically sits on top and this means it can move very, very fast whilst out at sea. So yeah, that's the harbour entrance there off to the right. This is the only way in and out of all the ships we've seen today. It's very narrow, very shallow, it's very easy to protect. That's why lots of leaders always chose Portsmouth as a naval base. On the left-hand side of the entrance, you can still see just some of the defences that were built around the harbour. You can see the round tower. This dates from the days of Henry V. Hold on a bit here, folks. We're going to get a bit of rock and roll, as we call it. So just hold on. Isn't this fun? Those of you who remember the Falklands Task Force leave at the harbour back in 1982, in all the news footage, all those buildings off to the right there are all in the background. That's where all the crowds gathered. So you've got great news now on the Solent. You can clearly spot the sea defence forts. These were built by the Victorians to protect the harbour against the French. They now belong to the chap who used to own Dreams, the bed company. And that one in the centre is a luxury hotel. If you want to spend one night out there, it's £350 per person per night. They also do Sunday dinner for £150. And if you like, we can also get married out there. Okay, right, no. And for you and 7 of your best friends for 4 nights is £32,000. Surprisingly, they are quite busy. There's no white car ferry there, just going across to Fishbourne. That'll take about 45 minutes. When you look at the fort again, you'll see out there very shortly, it was just to the right of it where the Mary Rose went down. That's where it happened. Obviously the fort wasn't there then, but she sailed out of the harbour entrance and tipped over in front of Henry VIII's eyes. The captain of the Mary Rose was extremely worried, so much so that when they went down there in the early 1980s, the first thing they discovered was a nervous wreck. It's alright, we'll be getting off in a minute. Great views of Gunwale Quay off to the right and the Spinnaker Tower. If you look up, you can just see the glass floor, the largest one in Europe. And if you take your shoes off, you're allowed to walk across. So we better not go too close because sometimes it does get a bit rude. Especially if ladies are walking over. Also off to the right there, look, you can see Portsmouth Harbour train station. That's where the Isle of Wight passenger ferries run a service to Ryde Pier. It takes them about 20 minutes. And you've also got one of the green and white Gosport ferries coming over. These ferries save a 17-mile road journey. About 3 million people use them every year. That's the newest one there, it's called the Spirit of Gosport. Now it's specially built with a glass bottom, so they can see all their old boats. You see all those people there on the top of the Warrior? Yeah, give them a smile and a wave. They also date from 1860. Right, ladies and gents, boys and girls, very shortly then we'll be alongside at the historic Dockyard, so for your own safety now, please keep all hands and fingers away from the edge, and please don't leave the vessel till you've been told it's safe to do so by a member of the crew.
course, we had to bring a lot of plants with us too, because they weren't growing here before we came. We brought some of them as young plants in plant pots, like the ones here on my bench. Others came as seeds, but we had difficulty getting some of them to grow. I remember we had problems with the trees in the formal garden. We had to replace them twice. They didn't like the salty southwesterly winds, or the sharp winter frosts. Neither do I. We made a special effort when we planted the box hedging. We had to. They dug away a lot of the good topsoil before they started building.